Welcome to Machine Minds, where technology and humanity meet. I'm your host, Greg Tarusian, founder of Samson Rose, a recruiting and search business focused on the robotics and AI industries. The Machine Minds show is where we dive deep into the intricate world of robotics and artificial intelligence. As a staffing industry leader with a passion for the frontiers of technology, I'm pleased to be bringing you intimate conversations with the founders, investors, and trailblazers who are at the heart of the AI and robotics revolution. In each episode, we dig into their journeys, the applications of the products they're working on, and the breakthroughs that are shaping our future. Join us as we explore how these machine minds are transforming the way we live, work, and understand our world. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a tech enthusiast, or just curious about this amazing field, you'll learn something new with each episode. Let's delve into the extraordinary. Let's delve into machine minds. Hello and welcome to Machine Minds. I'm your host, Greg Tarusian, founder of Samson Rose, your robotics talent search partner. And on today's episode, I'm joined by Abhishek Gupta, co-founder and CEO of OpenDroids. Thanks for being on the show today, Abhishek.
Thank you, Greg, for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. Let's jump into it. So ideally, I like to start with our guest's background, and I'd love for you to share your professional journey leading up to the founding of OpenDroids and what kind of experiences shaped your path in the robotics industry.
Lovely. Would love to share that. So it's a very interesting journey that I've had, Greg, because I am a hardware design engineer by background. So I used to work for the U.S. Department of Energy at a time a few years ago. Don't want to age myself right now. So several years ago, I should say. And then I used to be designing hardware and designing doing board level design for U.S. nuclear facilities as part of the core engineering group in fabrication and layout and testing. So at the time, it started all with that interest and passion because I have always been in love with electronics design, and I see that it's an instrument of change in the world. Just different people thinking differently. So with that, once I ended up my assignment over there, I thought of what should I go about doing next. So I ended up getting into Fortune 500 company where I did telecommunication design for creating the infrastructure for the first 4G system in India at the time. So again, don't want to age myself, but I guess everybody understands 4G I'm talking about. So with that being said, and I've been actually very, very passionate about business as it's something that is core to me as an essence of my being. I come from a business family. I decided that, I need to take the plunge, really understand the intricacies of business. So I ended up going to University of Montreal in Canada, and then did my MBA in finance and entrepreneurship. And later on, I was part of two co-founding teams in engineering capacity as well as project management for sensor-based systems. So with all the background, all the knowledge, one of the things I realized is that I have all the parts and pieces of building a robotic system, because essentially that is all it is at the end of the day when you break it down, first principles. And I said that, you know what, now is the time to take the plunge. I know robotics is going to change the universe. It's going to change everything around us. And with AI agents coming in, with the power of AI, AGI, embodied AI, it's like there's no better time in history. I need to take that plunge. And that's how it all started.
Amazing. So what actually inspired you to start OpenDroids? Was there a specific problem that you saw or a gap in the market that you wanted to address?
That's a very interesting story again, is because my two other co-founders actually knew each other from before. In fact, I was the third person on the team, incidentally. So
interesting.
Yes. It all started about 9 months ago when we sat down together. The other co-founder, incidentally, is my brother as well. So he's an investment banker on Wall Street for the past 20 years. He was actually finding, as he tells me, he said that, at one point in my life, I started to be seeing things as being like, being a banker at some point you become jaded with what's going on around you. And I realized that I'm a dinosaur in an industry that is gonna devolve all the time, right?
Yeah.
So he says that I was looking for meaning in my life, and that's the time he went to an AI summit and he met the third co-founder, Jack J. I'm talking about Ashish, who's my brother as well.
Yeah.
So these guys start talking, and Ashish right away gelled so well with him. He understands that Jack is a visionary. He is a futurist, a 26-year-old guy, successfully created two different businesses, exited them, and now completely core focused on building robotics. And so Ashish and Jack were talking, and Ashish decided right at the spot that they're going to be working together. They're talking about things, and then he asked Jack that what do you think is going to change the world, going to change everything for humanity? And Jack is like robotics, and that's what I've been working on for a while. But I'm really looking for the right kind of people to bring this all together. And of course, these guys were looking for someone who had core engineering expertise.
Yeah.
So it just started with a phone call. In the beginning, I was like, okay, I'll make a switch soon enough, because I was in the corporate sector before this, and you can or might not relate to, but it's like, sometimes you get you're like a canary in a golden cage. So I was like that, and then one day I'm talking to him, and he says, we are moving forward, we are looking for the right person. And I'm like, it's 3 o'clock in the night, and I actually literally on the call I said to him, I'm calling Jack right away. I call him and I say, Jack, I'm quitting everything tonight. I'm going to move to India, I'm going to build my team, and I'm going to take this forward. And that's what I exactly did.
Love that. That is so cool. Yeah, I got a chance to talk to Ashish and Jack at CES at your booth last week. So yeah, it was great to meet them both in person. And for anyone who hasn't met these guys in person, they're massive. But the whole founding team is like 6'4". So I'm 6'3". I was in good company, but I felt sorry for Sam, who I was with, who's like,
yes,
a lot shorter.
but in terms of intellect, I think Goliaths, all of them.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. Well, that's awesome. Really great stuff. And like I said, because I met them, I can see how passionate and visionary both of them are. They've got really unique perspectives, and it's amazing what you guys have done and put out, and also the eyeballs and interest that you're getting in such a short period of time, which is great. So while we're on that, just tell me, we spoke about it offline already, but tell me and the listeners just about your experience at CES and having the booth and the interest that you've been getting as a result.
That's a very good question, because I feel that it was such an overwhelming event in a good sense, because I really realized the power. Like, it's one thing to realize that the world is changing with robotics, but to actually see that in action. I mean, CES, for anyone who's not been there, I really do recommend for everyone to go there at least once. You will see the power of how AI agents, whether it be AI agents, embodied AI, like the upcoming AGI, as well as robotics, is pretty much changing the whole industry. I mean, you talk from every single perspective. And I think automotives was one area that was hugely represented. At the same time, robotics in every single sphere of human life is now starting to get represented. So that's a very good indication, because I think CES is a vision to the future. And with all the robots out there, it gave us a very strong corroboration that it's what robotics is pretty much changing every single sphere of human life. And then now, in terms of the reception that we got, I think I guess I was also telling you before that there was 9 or more articles that were written on us. We were actually featured as one of the 5 gadgets to watch out by CES. I think it was published in Digit. On MSN, there's like Mashable, TechCrunch. Everybody's writing about us. There was multiple reporters that came to us, and they're like, we love what you're doing. We wanna help you promote what you're doing, because this is something that we want to see in the world. In fact, I got so many volunteers, if you believe it or not, but people who are like, okay, I just want to work with you guys because I want to see this in the world.
Oh, good. That is awesome.
It was like phenomenal. Apart from all the amazing prospects we got, like there's people like Amazon, actually Deep Blue guys came to us, and they were like, we wanna invite you to see like how we can potentially work together. There was interest from Southwest Airlines. I already have a very keen interest from a hotel in New York who really want to do it right away. They are saying that we want to wait on you guys. You need to let us know when you can get the robot out there.
That is great. Well, look, that's a great stepping stone to now talk about OpenDroids in more detail, your products, mission, vision, etc. I want to go into all of it. So you guys emphasize open source, AI-driven robots for a variety of use cases, right? Automation, you've talked about hospitality there, education, etc. So who or what buckets would you say are your primary users of your products, and how do you end up catering for the commercial and the educational side as well?
Lovely. Again, I have to say, Greg, you have done a really good amount of research and really asking some very amazing questions. Thank you for that.
I appreciate that.
So, I would say that you're absolutely right in terms of like how we have actually tried to segment the market, because as an early stage company, you really want to, of course, get to the traction, and of course you have to stick to your vision, the mission that you're working on. Our core belief and our thesis in this world is that open source robotics is the way to go for the future, because you want to give the power back to the people. Like, and I'm not trying to compare us with anyone, but there's the Goliaths out there right now in terms of like the Teslas of the world, the 1X or Boston Dynamics. These guys, Figure AI, these guys are pretty much like their core thesis and premise is that keep on creating proprietary robotics. And we truly believe the opposite. We feel that the world, if you have to become a driver of change in the world, you need to do things which will be embraced by the community. And it needs to be like something that is universally applicable to give the power to the community to build things on for themselves. So that's what we want to do, is we want to become a sustainable infrastructure, a full stack solution, a hardware or an infrastructure. And on top of that, we provide the base stack, and for the open source community to embrace it and build up applications on top of that. So what we essentially aim to do is you build your own applications. If that helps you, you start your own businesses out of this. Literally, we are kind of like a back end for you. Then at the end of the day, we provide you all this equipment, all the body of knowledge that we possess, and help you become viable and sustainable in the long term. And of course, in parallel, we want to serve some commercially applicable use cases already, because we have the capability. So it's not to say that we are trying to do this as a proprietary thing, but it's just because it will facilitate more industries and more use cases that are already something that we have already worked on and built.
Love that. And I'm assuming if you do that, and if you go down that path, the impact is it's huge. You can't really quantify it. What do you guys hope to have in terms of impact with your mission, with your product?
That's again such a relevant question, because as we speak, we are launching one of the largest hackathons in robotics, as in like we are inviting students, hundreds and thousands of students. In fact, we have received more than 1,000 submissions already for things that people want to build in their garage, a robot of sorts. Like, of course, we have to be prudent about the pricing and stuff, because we are right now, this is more like, we are looking at the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world and the Steve Jobs of the world that built things in the garage, because that's our premise again, that we want these the future of robotics is reinvented by the people who are like sitting in their garages right now. Yeah. It's not by the Boston Dynamics or the Teslas of the world. That because the future is so beautiful in robotics is because with AI, AGI coming to power and fruition, it will all be enabled by building a good, sustainable full stack solution at this point, which will only get more and more. It will become more and more enhanced, and it will become more and more powerful with the new emerging AI models that the world is going to see. It's just like the early stage of the computer era, where the hackers were actually creating those initial applications. And now today you can see that every single sphere of industry is impacted by what was created at the time.
Yeah, so true. So true. Let's discuss your flagship product, R1D1. And
yes,
So what are its key features and how does it stand out in the current robotics market?
So, I would like to say this, Greg, is that R1D1 was kind of a test bed for us. It was
Okay.
the validation that, we have arrived. We have we have a robust team, a very strong engineering base of talent, and we have the capability to develop something full stack. And we demonstrated all with the R1D1. I'm very grateful. It is a humbling experience because it did take us a while, but it got us into like what you call the cost of learning is what we got, right? It is definitely, it's something that is fully built, it is functioning. At the same time, now being part of the robotics industry, I think you will agree with me, is that you need to keep on evolving and you need to be iterating at the speed of light. Literally, that's how we are
Definitely.
thinking about it. So we already have our two other versions out there, which is the R1D2 and the R2D3. Now these are a single and two dual arm options, which you will see on our website as well. So essentially, R1D2 is the more sustainable. It's like the sexier version of R1D1. It is smaller, it is more stable, it has more capabilities, it has higher advanced capabilities of AI. And with that, it is a single arm option. And then the R2D3, which is the dual arm option. Now,
You had
how we
both of these
differentiate,
on display at CES, right?
that's correct.
Next to
That's
each
correct.
other. Yeah.
So basically, the one that like again, with robotics industry, one thing you have to also work with is the logistics and shipping, tariffs and
Right.
logistics. That's sometimes quite a challenge. So we had the R1D1 on display because our R1D2 did not arrive just in time, but it will be
Fine.
available out in a few days, so
Yeah.
you will get to see that one as well. So,
Okay.
but yeah, essentially that is what it is. It's a newer or more advanced version of that single version that you saw for the R1D1.
And then, yeah, you had the two on one as
The
well.
two. So as you
Awesome.
were asking me in terms of the differentiators,
Hmm.
I think the biggest differentiator that we see with our competitors out there is that one is our expediency and the speed to market. Basically, I think we have a very, very sustainable capability to distribute products because of leveraging the kind of relationships that we have built in this space. I know within a very short time, but I think it's also coming from the fact that our founders have very, very strong relationships that can help in getting this as a mass market product. And the other part is the capability to actually, probably, Greg, if you have been observing this space, robotics today as it exists, people are not having any appendages. So I mean, to say the robots, right? So the robots to actually have a single and dual arm version, this is a complete reinvention of this space when it comes to the commercial use case or with respect to the academic research as well.
Yeah, that's very true. Well,
Yes.
what environments do you envision these robots being the most effective or most useful in a commercial sense?
So the immediate use cases that we already see, and we are actually in the process of deploying as well. One is the food and beverage. We certainly want to be very, very active in that space. We are actually creating two different iterations of the robots for that particular use case. One would be for the food and beverage serving. The other one would be these kind of R1D2 and the R2D3, because those will be having the arms. So it's both with arm and without arm option. And then I see a very strong use case with I think I'd already mentioned the hotels, right? Where it's like it's a server robot. It can go to your room. It can if you call for today, when you call for a bellboy, is what is happening in hotels, right? Now the bellboy is gonna be the R2D3 or the R1D2. So that's another application. I see senior homes as being a very, very substantial and significant use case. In fact, through our co-founder, that's a relationship we are developing right now. One of the good things is because of usually medical space is quite regulated, but we have got to understand this space a little bit better when it comes to actual senior homes. The regulations and the mandates in this industry is not as significant as you would see in a typical hospital or medical facility, because of which we are able to operate it within the public sphere in a facility like that. And that's what we are currently working on. In fact, we are building a relationship right now with like a founder who has multiple nursing or and senior care homes. So they are very, very interested in this. And then finally, I talk about the academic use case, which is basically like schools, colleges, and universities. In fact, we have actually, one of the things we are also doing is we are working with some students in colleges to help promote and get the robots out because they have strong relationships within their ecosystem. So we are leveraging that to actually sell the robots in as an academic research robot, because that is good to go right now, because that will give us the right talent even, and it will give us more use cases for the robots.
Love that. Yeah, I've spoken to founders from open source projects in the past that have actually used that as a talent pipeline tool as well, and I love that. And I also love your commitment to open source. And I was curious about how does that philosophy influence your product development and then also the engagement with your community?
So actually, with open source, I think I think it's a key driver. Like I said, it's part of our mission and vision is that we want open source robotics to be part of the dominant force in this world. So that's why we really do want to promote this robot as part of a research initiative as well, because at the end of the day, I'll be very honest, Greg, that at certain point in our lives, we really don't want to just be working for money. We really want to be working for the impact. I know as an initial startup, this is we have to be sustainable, we have to be profitable and stuff like that. But I think that the thesis with which we formed this company was that it will give and enable the capabilities of open source robotics for the world. And that is essentially, that's why we are doing these kind of hackathons. That's why we want to enable such capabilities, because at some point our longer term vision is that these robots can be programmed through like of course our initial full stack, and then building on top of that stack to actually enable people who are currently like sitting on the sidelines to become business owners and really create their own capabilities on these robots, whether it be for their homes, whether it be for their businesses actually.
It's true. Yeah, that's awesome. Let's shift gears because I'm interested in talking about team building, because it's obviously building a skilled team is crucial in a tech startup, and especially something like this. What qualities do you prioritize when you're hiring, and how do you cultivate like a cohesive company culture with being, you talked about building your team in India, you guys are obviously in the US, etc. How do you go about all of that?
I mean, that's such an amazing question, and I'll actually be throwing that back to you once I respond, because you guys are doing that on a big scale. So I really do want to pick on your brain as well. But I'll start off. What I'll say is that one of the things I've realized throughout my life is, and Greg, just to give you a very quick backstory, is that whatever I've ever worked for, I've been so damn passionate that I just don't give up. I just keep on, like I will hang to the last nail until it becomes possible. I mean, I've might have heard thousands of no's throughout my career, because it's not how people think traditionally. I'm not saying the visionaries are different, but most of the people in this world will always come from a frame of scarcity or being fearful. And that's where they always think that I have to work in the confines or the boundary of how I see the world. And I want to work with visionaries and leaders, and I want to work with people who are fearless and bold and daring. And that's the biggest thing that I want to inculcate as a culture in our organization. I only hire talent that has demonstrated to me that it's not the paycheck that they're working for. It's not that I'm not being stingy. I'm not a Scrooge in any which ways, but I certainly want people to be working for their passion rather than a paycheck. And that's one thing that I'm always recruiting for, is that that even if I'm hiring an engineer, the first capability, of course, I will look for is that how brilliant they are, how passionate they are. Like are they ready to like miss sleep, or even like at some point stop not give in to their carnal desires, and actually be working on this as a true driving north pole for themselves. If that is, if I've and this is also coming from instinct and like recruiting throughout my career. I have a very good keen sense of how I recruit people, because the people who have stuck around with me, I think they have, for themselves, it has helped them in their lives. And I'm not a prophet in any which ways. I'm just trying to like do the best for our organization and for whatever I can do well for other people. And that's what I truly believe in, is that if they have that burning desire, I do not care too much about resume. I'll be very honest. If what I truly do believe in is the practical aspect of it. So I usually recruit based on practical exposure, as in I give them an assignment. I give them an actual real world problem to solve. I will see that, of course, okay, it's good that you have a background and in and exposure in robotics, and that's of course that's gonna be a base. But on top of that, I will give you a real world problem to solve. And if you can demonstrate to me in that constraint of time that you are able to solve that, then it does not matter to me if you have like 10 years of experience or you don't have much experience.
I
But
love that.
that burning passion has to be there. And now, Greg, throwing it back to you, you have to also give me the answer.
Well, just to touch on like years of experience, that's always been a issue for me when talking to a client or, you know, a hiring manager in general, whether I was internal or now external. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a data point having years of experience, but it's not the be all and end all for your reasoning of if you can do the work, if you've demonstrated the work, whether it's an assignment, a test, you have products out there that are reputable, that are great, you've been through the whole cycle. If you've done that in 2-3 years as opposed to 7 years, why does it matter?
Yes.
It's more, I look at the abilities and capabilities of an individual. And when I'm doing an intake with a client, we talk about that. You know, what does success look like? What does a successful candidate look like in 30, 60, 90 days, in 1 year? How do you know they've been a good hire? And that's what they get done, what they can contribute, what they can own.
Right.
And that doesn't matter. You know, if you've worked in a startup for 2 to 3 years, that's the equivalent of working 7 to 10 in some larger organizations, because of the slower pace, what you're exposed to, the scope of work, etc. So I tried to put that to the side and look at deliverables and capabilities more than anything.
That's amazing.
But I call it the core profile attributes is more about the person.
Yes.
Their way of working, their way of communicating, their willingness to go outside of the scope of work if needed. And this is all important for a startup, right? And a lot of that comes back to what you said, the passion. If you're passionate, if you're engaged, if you want to be doing the work that you're doing, you're going to do all of those things. You're going to go above and beyond outside the scope, be a team player, etc. Whereas if you're doing it for a paycheck and you are just there to kind of tick the box of having a job or career path, sometimes a larger company is probably better for you. You want to be pigeonholed. You want a smaller scope, something a bit more defined, slower progression maybe.
Yes.
Whereas I love working with clients and also finding candidates for clients that have more of, I don't want to say a blank page, because you still have requirements and you still have like a job that you are trying to get done, but the right candidate can a lot of the times come in and create their own job description, because they're like, well, I can do what you say, but I can also pick up XYZ, and because I want to, and because there's opportunity, and because I want this product to come out to market, I'm going to give it my all. And that
amazing.
doesn't mean, you know, I'm working 100-hour weeks. It can, or it can be like I'm curious and I'm motivated and I'm energized to do this. And I think that's super important for the startup world.
100%. So rightly said. I mean, it's like check to every single thing that you said. And I'm glad that you think like that. And that's probably the reason we will end up doing a lot of business together as well, Greg.
I hope so. Yeah. You know, it's very different hiring for a startup, an early stage startup, instead of a public company or even like a Series D,
right?
Quote unquote startup. They're very different. So yeah, I'm fully aware of that.
Greg, would you also agree with me that I think one thing I probably didn't touch upon as much, because that is truly something I value deeply inside, is the humility aspect as well. that anyone who's cocky in my organization, that's one of the things I've always maintained, is that you can be very, very super brilliant and smart, but as long as you're not humble, you don't have a place in our organization.
So, yeah, humility. And a lot of clients over the past have said, we don't like amazing jerks, or they
Yes.
have like a no arsehole policy, or whatever, however you want to phrase it. Because it is, and I talk about this on my podcast a lot. I talk about it when I advise clients, but in the short term, and sometimes people look at it on like paper, oh, this person came from, use whatever, they came from Tesla, or they came from SpaceX or whatever, and they would look great for the next round that we're going in, or to put that logo
Yes.
on our website. But if they are a jerk, it is more disruptive to your culture and your productivity, and you end up with attrition or milestones get missed because it's not a cohesive work environment.
Yes.
So yeah, ego, that kind of, you can bucket it into whatever you want.
Right.
It's just disruption, right?
It's disruption. Absolutely. It's creating like toxicity within the organization.
Exactly.
So, absolutely agree.
Exactly. And at the early stage, it's even more detrimental, because if you have like 4 people in your engineering team and then you bring one other person in that is like that has a very bad ripple effect. Whereas if you have a 50-person engineering team and you have one person like that, probably they'll get pushed out. They won't have as bad of an impact because they'll get drowned out by your engineering culture that's already defined and embedded, and there's a way of working. But it's more detrimental early on.
Yes.
And can set you back. It can set you back in a lot of ways.
Truly, rightly said.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thanks for throwing that question back at me.
Absolutely. Pleasure.
Let's talk about future outlook in terms of trends in the robotics and AI space. What excites you the most, and how do you see the industry evolving over the next 5 years?
You know what? Greg, what I truly am, that's what excites me the most, is the possibilities of the future. Recently, I was having a conversation with someone whose company was sold to OpenAI. This gentleman is working directly with Sam Altman. So he tells me the information as to like how things are getting shaped up. Sam Altman, I think, describes this as super intelligence. And it is like, it is kind of mind boggling, because these are the people who are truly having an insider's view into what's happening in the world. And he was telling me that, humans are really, really bad at predicting the future. And that's been established multiple touch points in history. But what he was saying is that robotics is going to arrive much sooner than everyone expects it to. Like, we are thinking a 10-year time scale for like a pure deployment of like large scale robotics, but it's going to be much, much sooner than that, because of what is happening with the advancements in AI, with AGI coming into play, embodied AI, reinforcement learning, the machine learning algorithms becoming more and more better, faster, more efficient, with NVIDIA investing billions and now potentially over a period of time, $1 trillion+ into actually like I'm talking about all over the world. But essentially, that's how things will literally get redefined when it comes to AI capabilities that augment robotic systems. And I'm talking about computer vision. There's 3 aspects that are very, very critical with any robotic system. It's navigation, it's perception, and manipulation. Every single part will be touched by the new and advancing capabilities of AI, embodied AI, perception, or like vision models.
Such an exciting time, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
I mean,
Such an
even
exciting
today, I
time.
feel like what was happening in robotics a year ago versus today, it's a leap. It's completely an exponential, and I can't like even imagine like how it will be like 3 years down the line. I mean, unfortunate to say, I hope I had a crystal ball into the future because that
That
would give.
would be nice. Yeah, I tell people time and time again, the last 5 years has been such a drastic change, right?
True.
Like the last 24 months, even more so, in terms of the awareness from a public standpoint, the
Right.
awareness, the understanding, the openness to adoption of technology, whether it's AI or robots or whatever, the sentiment has changed.
Yes.
As en masse. But in parallel to that, the technology has done so much, like
Oh my God.
leaps and bounds. So you can just think, even if you take from last 24 months and look what's happened every quarter, the milestones, obviously Gen AI and stuff like that it just progresses at such a rapid pace, but the new companies popping up, the costs coming down, the applications, new industries that are open to adopting, it's so exciting.
It is so exciting. It is, it's like it's like the dot-com era, right? We were like, that was like a reinvention of how modern technology is changing and shaping every sphere of human life.
Yeah.
With robotics, AI coming together, it's gonna be like, that's not even a fraction or a blip of what will happen in the world.
Yeah. Crazy. It's so crazy.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a whole other topic we could talk about.
Yes, I know.
On the show.
It literally gives me the like, the, what do you call it? It's like, it gives me the shivers at
Yeah,
times.
goosebumps.
Goosebumps. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's like how the world is going to reinvent it, and that is something that is, that is something as a child I've been very, very, very passionate about. Is I didn't know what I was gonna be doing in my future, but one thing I always knew is that I don't want to be thinking about today. I want to be thinking about tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. That's the way to do it. That's how you're going to be on the edge, cutting edge of it all. What guidance would you offer to entrepreneurs looking to enter the robotic space, especially such innovation and something to get like the market entry that you guys have got? How have you gone about it?
What an amazing question, because that is something that I truly feel passionate about from the bottom of my heart, because it's all about, at the end of the day, I truly believe that giving back is all it's all about. So I would really, Greg, this is what I've learned throughout my journey now is, I love how Nike puts it, is like, just do it. Because I had been probably thinking for years and years in my life that how would I do, what would I do, how will I make it happen. And one fine day, because it's like I'm pushed to the wall, I literally had to make that quick decision. And if there was a mentor figure in my life who had actually guided me, I would have probably, today I see that I would have probably been in this industry a decade ago. Because it is the most gratifying, most satisfying feeling in the world to be part of something that is reinventing and changing, shaping the world in every single aspect. With that being said, I would certainly say that one of the intimidating parts is that it's a hard tech. Because of that, most of the times people think that it is very, very humongously capital intensive. There's a lot of barriers to entry. There's a dearth of talent, and with the models not being as advanced, there might be a potential bottleneck in terms of unlocking the capabilities and getting access to the capital or the scale. And to all that, I just say that if you start to work on something that you're truly like, of course you have to find a passion, as in, like, if you are a roboticist, you certainly have, I think it goes without saying that you have to find something that is true to you, and it is something that's unique. At least it's a real world problem. And I can tell you there's thousands and thousands of problems that robotics can solve. So it's not like there's any dearth of ideas or problems to solve. It's just that you start off with something. Because of your passion, it will lead you to a place where people will start to be, you're going to become a kind of a magnet. When I started, the day that I started, I never ever in my life imagined that within 8 to 9 months we would get the kind of traction that we have today. And it all happened because people gravitate towards people who are on a mission.
Well said.
So that's all I will say, that just start with something that you're really passionate about, and you will pivot along the way. I mean, we have pivoted a few times already, and we will keep on pivoting. I mean, it's the way of the world. It's the survival instinct. But if you don't even start, I think that is the biggest disservice you're doing to yourself as a human, if you really want to become an entrepreneur in this space.
So well said. Yeah, there's a saying, the best time to start was yesterday, and the second best time to start is today.
Absolutely.
If you're
But
going to do it, do
Greg,
it.
I want to ask your opinion on this as well, please.
In terms of advice for entrepreneurs,
Yes, yes,
I think, yes, just get going. I would seek mentorship. I would seek advice. I'd use any resource. There's infinite resources
oh,
out there
true.
that are free. You know, people worry like, oh, well, I don't have an MBA, or I
Yes,
didn't go, get a business degree in general or whatever. But, podcasts like this, I put them out so people have insights into a whole heap of different journeys that people have been on,
yes,
founding stories, career journeys, like
yes,
their education, how they broke into the market, how they found their co-founders, how they decided on their product, how they raised capital, all of that.
yes,
YouTube's huge. But if you are knowledgeable about a space or an industry and you see a problem that needs to be solved, you don't have to be technical, but you can align with the technical co-founder. And
that is
that's,
so true.
yeah,
That's
well,
such a
that's one of the
beautiful
things that a
insight.
lot of VCs say, a lot of that I've interviewed, but a lot of people in the industry. I understand the problem, but I don't know how to build the tech. I
Yes,
would be the end user. Let me go and align myself with a technical co-founder or advisor who gets it, or vice versa, Um, but just starting, if you don't start, if you don't have the conversations, if you don't put yourself out there, if you don't tap your network, if you don't attend events, if you don't at least search for the information, you're 10 steps behind. But it's
yes,
so easy to at least get the momentum going. And as soon as you start focusing energy on something, focusing your activity on it, the flywheel starts. And
so
then,
true.
yeah, you're off.
That's such a beautiful way of putting it. I could not have put it any better, Greg. I mean, I'm thankful to you. Actually, you gave me a few ideas myself right now that I can certainly start to even implement in a better sense. I think one of the important things that you truly mentioned was it's the alignment. It's like people have this mental block that I can't do this or I can't do that because I don't have the capability. And it's like nothing in this great in this world was built by one man. So how do you expect yourself to become be all, end all, solve all thing, right?
Right. Yeah. So true. You look at any of the visionaries, any of the people that are super successful, the Steve Jobs, the Elons, or
Yes.
whoever, they have an idea, a vision, or whatever. And sometimes, most of the time, and I know people that have worked directly for both of them, that they're madmen. Like they just don't, but they don't take no for an answer, and they know there's a way of getting it done, and they get the right people involved who
Yes.
align, and ultimately their team are the one doing it.
Yes.
But
So
they,
true. So
yeah, they
true.
get the North Star vision, and you've just got to get
Yes.
that alignment,
Yes.
get the right team, get the passion, and then it gets done.
Absolutely. I mean, amazingly, amazingly well put, Greg. And I want to touch upon one other thing that you mentioned is about the education, about having that kind of a background, like you talked about the MBA or the engineering knowledge or the whatever masters. And I'll tell you something very honestly that I truly believe today, that if someone was along the way and guided me, I will be very honest in telling you today that those degrees were just a piece of paper that is like today hanging on somewhere or like in my bag right now, probably. But what I truly do believe is that I would truly value practical real world experience and exposure, which comes through like even just starting a company 10,000 times better than actually going to school. In fact, if you don't have a degree and you have started something, I will value you more for doing so. And I would have done the same if I was given the right kind of mentorship and guidance along my career.
So true. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't want to discredit degrees, obviously, because there's
Of
value
course.
there, but they are, you normally see on job descriptions this type of degree or equivalent. And
Yeah.
equivalent is real world experience. You can't,
Right.
it's a crash course, right? If
Mm.
you're going to go and do an MBA or go and start a company and hiring people and raise capital and figure out your product market fit and all the other things that go into it, and work with your finance team and all of that stuff, you're learning it in the real world. It's not
True.
conceptual. It's not theory. It's not now I've learned it, I need to go and find somewhere to apply it. It's happening, and that
It
is
is
so
happening.
valuable.
Absolutely. And I see all the time now, I've been part of a lot of events because I have to do that for our business. I meet 18 to 25-year-olds that are building multi-million dollar businesses
Yeah.
just because they started solving a problem. They might not even have graduated. And I met a lot of those guys who just dropped out. They
Mm.
might have started somewhere, but they just dropped out. But not to discredit education exactly as you put out, but it is exactly that real world, that practical exposure
Yeah.
that is truly invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're weighing the two up, if you have the opportunity, if you're like talking about students that are sitting on multi-million dollar businesses already and they're on that path, you can drop out, you can
Yes,
pause, you can come
yes,
back later on if you really need to, but probably
yes.
won't have to.
You won't have to.
Yeah, you'll
Exactly.
be hiring other people that have done that degree, and then that's
100%.
fine. Um, okay, well, look, I know we're coming up on time, so before we go, I always like to ask some sort of controversial topic, which I kind of know the answer to already, but I like to touch on it in case we have people that listen who aren't in the industry. So the rise of AI and robotics, it naturally brings around a lot of ethical dilemmas,
Yes.
like job displacement, privacy concerns. We've got all these weird movies out there, like the robots are taking over and all of that stuff. How does OpenDroids address or think about these issues?
Um, again, that's such a relevant, pertinent question. Um, I'd like to just start off with something like, Sam Altman recently said that AI will bring with itself tremendous prosperity and abundance. And I truly do believe that because you see, it's the same thing as we were talking about earlier, Greg, that before computers became ubiquitous and part of human lives, everybody was really scared about the fact that how are they going to change human life? Are they going to take away jobs? The same thing when, there's multiple organizations, companies that throughout the period of history, they have reinvented or shaped on how humans interact with technology or their surroundings. And there's always this kind of this uncertainty, doubt, and fear. But I think technology, the inherent thing great about technology is that it enables or unlocks a lot more opportunities. It's basically like it is almost like saying that the per capita is getting unlocked because of having these kind of the technology as an enabler and and as a lever. So it humans, I think, will transition to much more meaningful pursuits, and this is more in terms of cognitive capabilities rather than manual driven labor with the AI and robotics coming into play.
True. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to free up our time to do more important things.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
rightly said.
I always love the comparisons, when they talk about like the personal computer or whatever it is, or when the car or internet, whenever those technologies came into place, there was always pushback. But in time, you realize how much more it enabled you as an individual to do
Yes.
instead of, taking over a job or whatever it is. But there's always the fear, but I like to touch on it from different perspectives.
Truly, rightly said. In fact, it's so funny because I think I was reading it somewhere that before Ford introduced the cars, it was like there was a big fear that what will happen to horse carts, you know?
Yeah, it's so
What
true.
people will go out of jobs. It will cause like the depression, you know?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it's funny in hindsight when you look back at these things and you're like, oh, that was not even an issue. So
Exactly.
much better now.
Right.
Um, well, look, Abhishek, thank you so much for being on the show. This was awesome. I love it when my guests throw questions back at me, and I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your journey, everything that you guys have achieved in such a short period of time, and just a glimpse at what's to come. So thank you. Where can our listeners find out more about the company and you and follow along for everything that you've got
Lovely.
going on?
Greg, before everything else, I want to first thank you as well. Thank you truly from the bottom of my heart for inviting us today because it truly means a lot. This is also helping furthering the cause of open source robotics in the world. Very glad and excited about being on the show today. In terms of following us, the first way I would say is the direct contact with me would be abhi at opendroids.com, opendroids.com. If you want to check our website, it's opendroids.com, opendroids.com. You can follow us on X, and just me personally, it's at the rate of ABHI GURUCOOL. That's Abhigurukul, at the rate of Abhigurukul. And finally, you can follow us on LinkedIn through just type in OpenDroids on LinkedIn, and you can follow us. You can reach out to us over there. So I'm definitely looking forward to hearing a lot from people who are passionate about open source. Please come, and you are more than welcome to come and visit us. We are in Sunnyvale. Our office is set out here. You can reach us through, I would love to reach you out through any of these mediums that I mentioned. And if you want to set up a time to come and meet me, I would love to do so.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll link a lot of this in the show notes as well for ease. Sure. But yeah, I look forward to keeping in touch, helping guys wherever possible, and rooting for you from the sidelines as well.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Greg. Thank you to you and your team for making this happen.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care now. Bye.